How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my channel. My name is Swanee, and today I'll be breaking down everything in the brand new Chemical Agents Warbond that just released for Helldivers 2. This includes the new Advanced Filtration Armor passive, the P11 Stim Pistol, the G4 Gas Grenade, the Guard Dog Dog Breath, and the TX41 Sterilizer. And before we get into the breakdown, I'm going to say right here at the beginning that this Warbond isn't going to be for everybody. This Warbond is going to be for those of you that want to play more of a support role for your team. There are no primary weapons in this Warbond, and you aren't going to be doing a ton of damage compared to previous Warbonds, so definitely keep that in mind if you're on the fence about getting this Warbond. So with that said, let's jump right into it, starting with the Advanced Filtration Armor passive. There are 2 armor sets in the Warbond that have this passive ability, and there are also 2 armor sets in the Superstore today that also have this passive ability. And with this passive, it provides an 80% resistance to gas damage and its effects, which is going to be pretty important when you're using all the new gas stratagems. Now, in my testing, I found that even though it says it gives an 80% resistance, it's more like a 100% resistance. So I don't know if that's a bug or if it's intended to be this way. But as of right now, I wasn't taking any damage in the gas, and I was having a lot of fun with that, so hopefully the devs don't change this in the future, but I kind of expect them to change it because it's definitely more than 80%. And because of this, I was straight up just standing in the gas, and I wasn't taking any damage at all, which was pretty cool. So I found it to work really well if you use the orbital gas strike and you just stand in it while all the enemies just bake all around you. And with the latest update this week, they changed the way that gas behaves in the game. Prior to this update, it worked kind of like fire damage, where anything in the gas would kind of just die over time. And now the gas does a lot less damage, but it will blind and confuse your enemies. So what I found to work really well was to round up a bunch of enemies and have them chase me. Then I'd throw the orbital gas strike ahead of me, and then I'd run straight into the gas cloud, the enemies would follow, and then I'd turn around and just mow them down and they'd get pretty wrecked. So I'd say that the gas plays more of a support role now. The gas can still kill enemies, but when I was testing it, most of the kills actually came from the enemies getting confused and killing each other more than it was the actual gas that killed them. And when you're using any of these new gas weapons, I think you're going to have a lot more success if you play in a team versus playing solo. I think what the devs were going for here is that they want the gas to work as kind of a debuff. You know, you spray the gas on the enemies, it blinds them, confuses them, they're going to be wandering around aimlessly in the gas, attacking each other, all while your teammates are probably shooting into the gas and picking them off. But as for the Advanced Filtration Armor passive, I definitely feel like this is one of the best passives in the game currently, unless they nerf it. I know if you compare it to the fire-resistant armor, that is only a 75% damage resistance, so if you stand in the fire, you will still burn over time. But with this gas resistance, you can literally just throw down a gas strike and lay down in it, and you won't take any damage at all. So I think this Advanced Infiltration passive is actually pretty good, and I like all the armor sets that come with it, especially the way they look. I think they look really, really cool. So if you just want some cool-looking armor, that alone might be enough to get this Warbond, because look at those helmets. They look pretty awesome. Next up, I want to talk about the P11 Stim Pistol. Its description reads that it fires a ballistic dart at near supersonic speeds, allowing the user to stim allies from a distance, and it might sting. It has a damage value of 0, it has a capacity of 6, so you get 6 shots before you have to reload it. It has a recoil of 23, and a fire rate of 70. It is a one-handed weapon, so you can use it while you're carrying certain objectives, and you can also use it when you're carrying the ballistic shield, for example. It has rounds reload, so it has to reload 1 stim at a time, so it does have a pretty slow reload speed, and it is stimulative, so it shoots stims. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions that you guys have about this thing, and one of the most asked questions I saw on the Discord and on the Reddit was, can you self-heal? And unfortunately, no, you cannot self-heal. It is only used for your teammates. I tried shooting myself with it, and I couldn't get it to work, so, I mean, maybe there's a way you can do it, but I couldn't find a way to self-heal, so that is off the table. Also, another question I saw people ask was, what happens if you shoot enemies? And nothing. Nothing happens at all if you shoot enemies. They just take it because, you know, this weapon does 0 damage, so it doesn't do anything. It doesn't heal them, it doesn't buff them, it doesn't do anything. So don't waste your ammo shooting the enemies with the Stim Pistol. Now, as for the healing factor itself, If you shoot a teammate that is hurt, if you shoot them with one stim, it will heal them very slowly, and it doesn't heal very much. So if you have a friend and they're very close to dead, you're going to want to shoot them with probably 2 to 3 stims so that it stacks and it heals them pretty much instantly. So when you're trying to heal your teammates, make sure you shoot them multiple times. And in case you were wondering if the Stim Pistol can replenish your teammates' stamina, that is also the case as well. So if you and your team are trying to run for your life and you're just trying to get to extraction or just get the hell away from the enemy, if you see that your teammate is out of breath, you can shoot them with a stim and they will get their stamina back and then they can keep running. So I thought that was pretty neat. I will say though that it is pretty hard to hit your teammates while they're moving and running around. So if you're in the middle of combat and your teammate's trying to run for their life, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to hit them with a stim. I was missing left and right trying to hit moving teammates. So I feel like this Stim Pistol is going to need a little bit of like an aim assist or like an auto lock onto teammates to make it a little bit better, because this Stim Pistol is a little bit underwhelming to me. It's not very accurate. You miss a lot of your shots. It doesn't heal your teammates very much. You have to shoot your teammates with multiple stims for them to see any benefit from it. Your best bet is to wait for your teammate to stop moving, or maybe if they're hiding behind cover, that's probably going to be when you want to stim them. I also tested it out against the personal shield because I had a strong feeling that for some reason the stims weren't going to go through the personal shield, and that does seem to be the case. If your teammates are wearing a personal shield, your stims are not going to go through the shield and heal them. They're just going to bounce right off the shield, so hopefully the developers will look into changing that in the future. So overall, if you want to play the medic role for your team and you want to play a support role and just go around healing your teammates, you might have fun with this, but I think it needs a little bit of a buff. I know that's weird to say, the Stim Pistol needs a buff. I don't know. I feel like if you're going to be giving up your secondary weapon slot to heal your teammates, it should do a better job of healing your teammates. Maybe give them some like overshield type health, like give them a little bit extra health beyond their normal health bar or something. Or maybe it should have the same effect that one booster does, where it turns your screen yellow and it makes you run faster. I feel like if the Stim Pistol did that, it would make it pretty good. But as of right now, I was pretty underwhelmed with the Stim Pistol. So next up, I want to talk about the G4 gas grenade, the Guard Dog dog breath, and the TX41 sterilizer kind of together because they all basically do the same thing. It's just how you want to go about dealing the gas damage. The TX41 sterilizer is basically just a flamethrower that shoots out gas. The Guard Dog, is just like the other Guard Dogs, except it shoots gas. And then, of course, the gas grenade is just a quick way to access more gas. So if you wanted to, you could equip all three together and just have a full gas loadout, which is pretty fun to do. But let's talk about the G4 gas grenade first. I like the gas grenade. I think it's fun to use. It's a nice, quick, easy way to access some gas and confuse some enemies. So if there's a group of robots or a group of bugs all clustered together, you can quickly throw a grenade and confuse them and then pick them off with whatever stratagem or primary weapon you have. Now, unfortunately, the gas grenades cannot blow up bug holes and they cannot blow up robot factories, so that's a pretty big downside. So I would probably pair this with like the grenade pistol or some sort of stratagem that can take care of those factories and the bug holes. Luckily, they changed the factories in this update so that factories can be blown up with like rocket launchers and stuff. But just keep that in mind that the gas grenades don't have any effect on factories or bug holes, and the gas grenade isn't going to be dealing nearly as much damage in comparison to some of the other grenades, especially the new thermite grenade that can take out Bile Titans and factory striders and chargers in just one shot. It's a pretty weird trade-off to trade one-shot killing a charger for just confusing a charger. So it's definitely a different play style, but it is pretty fun. It's not like it's useless or anything. I can see a lot of people hating on it because, it's not the thermite grenade. It's not going to have that wow factor. But if there is a group of enemies, like there was a couple times where I went up against automatons, there was like 3 or 4 Hulks clustered together. I threw some gas grenades at them and then they started to attack each other. I thought that was pretty neat. I don't like them as much as some of the other grenades, but with this latest update, they've given you a lot more options with your stratagems and your loadouts. And I feel like some of you guys are really going to enjoy it. I definitely had fun using the gas grenade. Next up, I want to talk about the Guard Dog Dog Breath. Now, I think the Guard Dog Dog Breath is pretty fun, especially if you're a solo player. I think this is going to be very useful because the Dog Breath has some pretty far range. Like, it was going out and chasing enemies that were pretty far away from me. And with this Guard Dog shooting out constant gas, it's really helpful if you're a solo player because it confuses all the enemies. And then that will buy you time to either escape or just sit back and pick off all the enemies while they're fighting each other. I definitely think it could compete with the other guard dogs. It was pretty fun, especially when it goes out and it confuses a charger, for example. There was a couple times where it would confuse a charger and then it would charge into the other group of enemies. So there's different things like that that will pop up that make gas in general pretty fun. It's definitely not going to be a damage dealer, so if you're expecting this thing to get as many kills as the guard dog rover, it's not going to do that. It's not going to rack in the kills, but it is fun. It does go out, it confuses the enemies and makes them easier for you to kill, so it kind of works in tandem with you as the player. And then if you're playing with teammates, obviously that's also a big help. Your dog breath is going to go out, confuse the enemies. They're going to be fighting each other while you and your team are, picking off the enemies. And honestly, I had good results with both the automatons and the terminids. I actually found it to be more fun when I was facing the automatons, though. I didn't expect gas to be good against the automatons whatsoever, but it was actually pretty fun to throw gas at them and watch them just go crazy and start shooting each other. I thought that was really, really cool. So I liked the guard dog breath. It's got my seal of approval, and I think some of you guys are going to like it as well. And then lastly is the TX41 Sterilizer, which is basically just a flamethrower that shoots out gas. Now, unfortunately, I was kind of underwhelmed with this weapon. I think it's fun to use. There's something very satisfying about spewing out the gas. It just looks really cool. But unfortunately, since it doesn't kill the enemies and it just makes the enemies go psycho, the range isn't very far on this weapon. So you're going to be shooting the gas at the enemies. They're going to go blind and crazy, and then odds are they're probably still going to end up attacking you. So I ended up taking a ton of damage when I was using this, versus the flamethrower, where if I was using the flamethrower, it would just kill all those enemies instantly, where this just confuses them, and then they get up in your face, and then they kill you. So I think the TX41 Sterilizer is fun, both against the automatons and the terminids, and it can get some kills. Like, I was having a couple cool moments where I was getting some pretty big kill streaks, but it definitely feels a lot more dangerous versus using something like the flamethrower. If I was the devs, I would consider buffing the range on this TX41 Sterilizer. I feel like if it had just, I don't know, maybe a couple more feet of range, it would make a big difference and it would keep you, the player, a lot safer. Because right now, the risk of using it doesn't really match the reward that you get for using it, if that makes sense. And I think the best way that I can describe the TX41 Sterilizer is if this weapon came out prior to this update. Like, this feels like one of the weapons that we would have gotten a month or so ago in the old ways of the game, where the game wasn't very fair, it was unbalanced, and all the players started to leave because it wasn't very fun. It definitely does not feel like a brand new stratagem based off of the update that we just got, where everything feels powerful and balanced. This doesn't feel like it's as powerful as everything else that just got buffed. It feels like they had this thing prepped and ready to go, and then they buffed everything else, and then they forgot about buffing this weapon as well, and it kind of got left behind. Because it's definitely not even really in the same ballpark as the flamethrower, especially after the latest fire buff. Fire damage is just absolutely insane now, and I feel like a lot of people would much rather have a flamethrower that's going to instantly kill all the enemies versus the TX41 Sterilizer, where you just shoot out a bunch of gas and it doesn't kill them instantly, it confuses them and makes them just go crazy. It's always definitely better to kill your enemies than it is to, confuse them or debuff them. So overall, my thoughts of this Warbond are, it's kind of okay. If you're one of those hardcore players that plays the crap out of Helldivers 2 and you like to collect all the Warbonds, I think this is going to make a nice addition to your collection. And oddly enough, I think the MVP of this Warbond is the Orbital Gas Strike that already existed in this game. I think the combination of the new armor passive with the Orbital Gas Strike and the gas grenades alongside the dog breath and the sterilizer, using all the gas together can rack in some kills, and you can get some pretty big kill streaks. So at the bare minimum, if you plan on skipping out on this Warbond, I would at least pick up one of those armors from the Superstore. That way you can get that passive and then play around with the Orbital Gas Strike. But that is going to do it for my thoughts on the latest Warbond. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. That way you don't miss out on any future Helldivers 2 videos. And if you made it this far in the video, consider giving it a thumbs up because it helps me out in the algorithm and helps push my channel to new people out there. And that is going to do it for me, guys, and I will talk to you all in the next video.